Noah, thank you so much for coming on the Winners Paradigm podcast. Before I get ahead of myself, would you mind giving us a brief intro, who you are, what you're passionate about today?
Awesome. Well, I'm Noah Sharpe. Obviously, I'm passionate about fitness, health, mindset, just personal development and growth, overall in every aspect, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually, just really pursuing personal excellence and, trying to always move the needle a little bit for us to all better ourselves.
Boom. And let's start there. How did you get started within the industry? And what was it for you that became that driving force to keep you going?
Yeah, so I think I was, like a lot of people, a child athlete and, just someone who really was already a competitor. So when you're kind of already growing up like that, usually if you're not going to, go all the way with sports, if you already have that competitive drive, you're going to apply it somewhere. So, just really coming from super, low income beginnings and just working and, I dropped out of high school to work full time and then still kind of, really had that nature of, like, wanting to do more. So after an injury, because I still went to, played sports, still, try to do like a year of college. But, after I got injured, I was really just trying to figure out like what's next. What does that look like for me? And coming back from the injury, just really pouring myself into the gym, trying to get strength back. Because going from being like an athlete to someone who, it hurts to sit on a toilet is super mentally detrimental. And when you have that drive, it does something too with anxiety and depression. So just kind of working through that and once I started getting really in the gym and falling in love with that aspect, because I think when you're an athlete and you're doing like, the travel or the high school, you work out as a means to an end. It's not necessarily, the main focus, but really falling in love with that aspect and, starting to change my lifestyle out of high school. I was partying a lot, drinking a lot, didn't really have a lot of, focus and started to really fall in love with the gym, started to really give me that compass I needed and really finding out like, wow, like this is something that is a lane. So when people started seeing me change my lifestyle, that became something that I can, start working out with other people and try to influence people around me. And then I was like, this is something I'm obsessed with. I love it. So quit my
Mm.
job, uh, got rid of my apartment, and then moved from Northern California to Southern California, all within like a 6 month span, and
There you
just
go.
went all in. Found the local big box gym, bugged the hell out of them. I was literally certified for like three. I'd certified on like a Monday, and I think I moved on like a Friday. So by the time I
There
was
you
like bugging all these gyms, I'd been certified for like 7 days. But I was just really adamant on getting in a big demographic, working up, and starting from ground zero, and it's just been crazy since then.
That's awesome. What's funny is I went through a similar thing on Monday. I was doing, the transformations, and I was doing kind of just showing that process from like 2.5 years ago of like putting people on my story of like the messages you get when you do it. And I was talking about, initially, people didn't believe me because I was a big drinker, drinking a gallon of whiskey, got out the Marine Corps. It was just like next thing, next thing, next thing. And then, as I started losing weight, as my body started to change, as I started just being consistent with the podcast game, people started to see that. And it was funny because everybody's like, how are you so consistent? How are you, in the gym every day? How are you doing this? And I'm like, it's not even about being consistent. It's just creating that day every single day. And you're like, hey, I need to do this. I'm extremely depressed, or I go back into the bad habits if I don't do these things. So it's not even a fact of like, oh, I need to do this every day. It's just like I do this every day because it makes me fucking a good person. And
100%. I tell people I'm like I do this because I need to function like a basic like so for me
yeah,
it's like caffeine like does it make me hyper? Does it let me function at like a basic level at this point? So it's like you said, it's just changing habits. And for me, like something you said that resonated was like no one's gonna believe you while your habits are still shit. So
yeah,
like even when you are a trainer, you start to see a lot of other people who really don't live that lifestyle. And
yeah.
for a while, you think you can kind of skate by and you think you're fooling people. But then, like when you're on the other side of it, you can notice who really does and doesn't abide by the habits that they preach. And for me,
Mm,
I think it's just something that I am a better person when I align myself with habits. And the things that I don't do are things that don't like row the boat backwards because I need to move forwards at all times. So just cutting things out that don't move the needle, cutting things out that slow me down, cutting things out. Like people ask me like, "Oh, why don't you drink?" And is it that bad? Can you not drink and look good? And like, there's plenty of people that that probably look awesome and still drink. But for me,
yeah.
it doesn't move the needle. For me, it slows me down. For me, I can't function at the highest level possible if I do that. So it just has to be by default cut out.
But you know what? I love that. I just seen a video yesterday, and I want to say this girl placed like fifth at Mr. Olympia, and she was talking about, oh, I can have my wine and I can tailor it for the macros and fucking move things down and have less food here. And it was funny because I had a conversation with some dude, and he was putting beers in his macros, and he's like, "You can still have beers." And we kind of bumped heads because he was saying like, "Oh, why do you preach this no alcohol nonsense?" I'm like, one, I'm alcoholic, and two,
Yeah.
it's like if I'm talking about rebuilding your foundation, why the hell am I going to approve of that? And I'm like, for me, it didn't work. So for me, if you come to my coaching program, yeah, it is going to be black and white. I'm going to tell you stay away from that stuff because it's going to, most people aren't going to be able to just have beers in their macros and then still be able to stay consistent in life. It's going to
Yeah.
be eating like
Yeah.
shit when you're drinking whatever, you know?
As a coach, why would you ever preach vices? Like, doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Like, if you have someone who comes to me who's like, "Yo, I love," because there's people I have where I'm like, "Okay, well, why do you drink?" Because everything is a why, right? So it's like, "Well, why do you drink?" Oh, well, when I go out, like I feel super uncomfortable. So it's like usually if I have a drink, I'm like, "Oh, so you have like social anxiety?" Well, like, yeah, maybe like I do. I'm like, okay, so what are some things we can do? Like, so you really like the alcohol has nothing to do with it. But that I do occasionally have a client who's like, oh, I love a good whiskey. Like I love, I'm like, okay, so then let's go from there. If you want to track it, fine, but just be aware that if you're doing 9 out of 10 things and one of the things you're still doing is drinking, the macros are not the same. And anyone who knows anything about nutrition is aware that like not all macros are like the macros, you might still be hitting your carbs or whatever, but not all carbs are created equal. You're not going to look the same as a guy who doesn't drink. Like it just, you're just not going to. And, that's just something that comes between a coach and a client. But there are people I have who are like, dude, I love like a good brandy or stuff like that. I can't relate. Like I drink because I had issues. Like I didn't drink because I love the taste of tequila, but a good margarita, whatever. But I wasn't like, man, I love a good agave. Like it just, most people don't. Most people, if you get down to the root of why they drink, it's a vice. It's covering something. They don't want to be present. It's become a habit. They were doing it since they were 17 and now it's just like a part of their life. Most people don't drink because they love the taste of alcohol, to be honest. So yeah, as a coach, I would never preach vices. It makes sense. And you're not going to stop at 3 beers. You're going to have 3 beers and then some chips and then probably like there's just there's so much. And you know that.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny is I bumped heads with some dudes because they're like, it again, it's taking the advice, but also having that coach that's with you on that journey. So I was saying, like, for my particular body, I got a lot of injuries. I can pack on muscle quick. Even when I'm on a cut, I'm packing on muscle, and the number on the scale's pissing me off because it's not going down, but I look better. And it's like I can't go to that certain coach who's going to say it. And I had a buddy who me and him were bumping heads because he has a naturally lean physique, and he was trying to tell me, "Oh, do this," and I'm like, "No, you can't say it's a fucking one size fits all. Do this." Because for me, I can't do that. My body metabolizes things differently. I've seen this dude pound beers and still has a six pack. I'm like, for me, that's never been possible. Is pounding beers and then, oh, I look good. Like, nah, my body metabolizes it differently. I also messed my metabolism up for cutting a lot of weight, which I didn't understand until it got a little later and I got it at the macros. I'm like, why is my body fucking? Why am I not losing the weight? And it was funny because again, it was that same thing where it's like certain people want to give this advice, but it's not going to work for everybody. It works in their particular case, but again, everybody's not going to be that way. They're going to fall into the vices, like you said. They're going to fall into not what they're doing. And point again, put that stuff on my story. And then some guy reached out to me and he's like, you know what? That's right. And it was funny because from the outside looking in, his fucking life looked amazing. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, this dude's traveling. He looks nice. He takes care of himself. And then when I really asked him about his relationships, he's like, oh, my relationships are shit. My girl just left me because I'm not living that life that I need to be. And I was like, hey, bro, like, let's build that foundation out. Let's focus on making every day count. And then we can go from there. So when it comes to the foundational principles, we're getting people to switch their lives around. What do you recommend for them to start so they can understand that, hey, I need to live different today in order for the future to be better?
Well, I think first and foremost, all the workout plans in the world don't really mean anything if you don't have the mindset. So developing mental toughness and fortitude, but also shifting identity. And it's something I really talk big on my clients because you can give someone who's in a poverty mindset $1,000, and if you see them in 2 weeks, they probably will have blown it. You can give, someone who grew up as like that fat kid who went through the, evolution of the bullying and then being told that, and that's how they see themselves. You can help them lose 50 pounds, and I guarantee if you see them in a month, they'll put it back on. It's always magically some way. Like when you go into that mindset, even people, there's always like the people who their dog always eats their homework, their keys are always lost, they're always running behind, and something like the world's always happening to them, never for them. So in my mind, with everything I do, I'm like, mindset is first. Shifting your identity is first. you will not always get your goals, but you'll always get your standards. So really adjusting the way that you start to say, who am I going to be? And then you start to align yourself with that person. So if you had Noah in 10 years, what does Noah want to look like? Who does Noah want to surround herself with? What kind of cars I want to drive? How, like, all these things, and I need to align myself with those habits. So in reality, I think shifting habits to align yourself with the identity that you want is everything. I'm going to live like the person I want to be in 1,000 days. I can't, necessarily change who I was 1,000 days, ago. But if I say, who do I want to be in 1,000 days? How's that person walk? Who they talk? What do they listen to? What podcasts are they on? Like all these things, I'm gonna align myself with those habits. What time do they wake up? Do they read? Cool. I need to read. Like in that, aligning yourself with the habits of not who you are, but who you want to be, I think is everything. And it's going from
Mm.
there.
I love that. You know, what's funny is I'm big on that, but that's something again I feel like people don't understand until they get those friends who are in that room, and it's a different conversation of the standards they hold themselves to. To where one of my mentors, he was talking about, hey, people keep posting that I didn't want to go to the gym today, and they're like, when is it going to change to, instead of saying I didn't want to go to the gym today, but I made it happen, to this is just the standard, and that's what happens regardless of how I feel. And I was like, man, that's crazy, because I literally had that conversation. I'm going on these podcasts, interviewing people, and it's all the same things when you're on that higher level. It's like everybody's saying it's the discipline, it's the focusing on what you're doing, it's being intentional with everything. And people are like, oh, you don't like me, you don't like being around anybody. I'm like, yeah, because I expect more of myself, which means I expect more of everybody around me, and I just can't be that guy that's going to be there approving of shit where I'm just like, hey, bro, what are you doing, if you know exactly what's wrong? And I think that's another aspect, is people have that clarity, but they don't take the action, And one of the things I noticed for me, and I bet you could attest to it a little bit, is just affirmations. People like to say, I get to do these things. Yeah, you can say I get to all you want, but if you're not taking that actual, action on that day, it's not going to matter. So for me, I started saying, like, I do daily workouts, I do show up the best way possible. So when it comes to changing that identity, like you said, creating that new being, aligning it to that goals that are in the future, when people are looking at it and they're saying, hey, whatever their circumstance is prior to, like you said, you were drinking as well, you had this picture of you, now you're acting upon these things. How important is it to take that precise action? Because I know a lot of people like to overanalyze before they even make their first move.
Well, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows the phrase paralysis by analysis. I think if you're constantly waiting for the ideal opportunity and that ideal scenario to start being the person you should be, you'll be waiting forever. And no one who operates at a high level has ever done it through motivation. You don't have anyone that's like, if you look across the board at the people who, if you want to look at the Goggins or the freaking Cardones or all these people, none of them have ever said they got there through motivation and timing. Like the timing was good and I was super motivated to do it. Not one. So just like you said, developing discipline, it's gonna be like what deposits are you making today? Are you making deposits into procrastination? You're making deposits to discipline, making deposits into your old self, you're making deposits everything. And like mentally, what I'm thinking about at all times is like if there's 2 cups and I have a bag of coins, like which coin am I putting in here? Am I putting, and everything you do when you start to really take a step back and analyze every single move you make, you snooze. Okay, progression. Okay, there's trash on the floor. I walk past it. Okay, did I pick it up? Cool. And that's literally how I start to view everything. And it sounds crazy, but when you start to view everything like that, you realize that you're constantly molding, like all day, and you like, unknowingly, most people, until you become intentional about it, you're molding, and you're like, wow, like okay, I was supposed to do 30 minutes of cardio, I did 25. That's like 5 minutes. Okay, I molded back. Okay, I did wake up on time, or I actually got to the gym. You're constantly just making deposits, and you realize that everything you do, you're actually impacting the next 100, 300, 600 days. You're going to look back to today and be like, what'd you do 600 days ago? And when you start to take that so seriously and literally, like, oh, it sounds like a good metaphor. It's not a metaphor. Then all of a sudden, every day you think of an opportunity, like you said, oh, the get to, yeah, like I don't think I'm excited to go to the gym every day. I think I'm excited to, not be able to eat what I want, which is like naturally, I want to be a fat ass and I want to eat freaking, wings and all that stuff. But I'm very, very, very aware that whatever I do today will impact me in the next, 21, 90 days. And I just, okay. It just becomes very matter of fact. I, in
Yeah.
90 days, don't want to look like shit. Therefore, today, I'm not going out and drinking and partying. I will send my thing because I want to have abs. It just becomes like cause and effect. And I think one of the biggest issues in today's day and age is that people have lacked the a self awareness, but also like the idea of cause and effect is gone. There's no
Yeah.
repercussion. There's no like your identity doesn't matter. Who you are doesn't matter. We're all the same, and like there's no winners and losers. There's participation trophies, and there's no cause and effect. And if you really broke it down to the gist of it, everything is cause and effect. Everything is action and reaction. I've had someone remember one of my clients one time. He's like, "There's no like the universe doesn't punish or reward you for what you do, but there's always cause and effect." And that's just how I try to
Mm.
live is like just making daily deposits because I'm like, all right, I want the effect to be this. Period. That's it. It's that simple. I don't love eating healthy. I just want the effect to be this.
No, that's spot on, and that was literally gonna be the next thing is talking about, the one way you do everything, or excuse me, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. It's really that, right now when you look at it, there's a lot of validation of everybody validating what they do, like you said, and for me, I'm big on that. Like one of the things that'll make me flip out with somebody, besides the way they treat people, which I'll be the second point I get to, but it's like doing the small stuff right, like putting the fucking shopping cart back. Like I used to just not even think about that, but it's just the discipline of that, and it's like literally there's only one scenario that happens now because if I have two shopping carts like at Amazon store because they have the little carts, but now I
Yeah.
just put my daughter in there because she's big enough. So it's funny because it's like that was one thing where I was like, fuck, dude, I would do it. And I was like, I can't put both of these back and get the kids in the car. I don't want to leave them in the car by themselves. So I just created a new plan to make sure that doesn't happen. So I can put the fucking cart back and just show up differently. And it was funny because it's like, I started doing that. My wife came along board. She's like, why do you keep doing this? And I'm like, it's habit. But more importantly, it teaches you just to stay disciplined, to do that small thing that you don't want to do. And I'm like, two, be a good person. You don't want to fuck up somebody else's day by being that person where you see the worker going to collect all the carts and then here goes you putting that shit right in a bush or something. And then they got to go out of their way to do it. I was like, I know for me, if I was doing that job, I didn't like it, and it was just that perspective of seeing, hey, this is what it is. It created other ways for me, like we said, it's the small deposits. That deposit allowed me to start showing up differently in other ways and then seeing that in people. And it was funny because I had a client that way on Saturday or Sunday, we're talking, and we built his new fitness plan out. He's like, I want to go to push pull legs. I'm like, let's do it. And then we're going to nutrition. We had an hour and a half nutrition call. And the reason why is because he had those limiting beliefs, and that's going to be the next part here is he was talking about, hey, I don't want to take it that serious. And I start laughing a little bit, and I'm like, what do you mean you don't want to take it that serious? Like, oh, I still want to have my little bit of fun. I want to have my cheat meal. I'm like, absolutely. You can be strategic on that treat meal, still have it within the macros, but you're not going to go over that, excuse me. And then it was funny because he was talking about that. And like, I tapped in the mindset with him and I'm like, hey, man, how are you changing your life around? How are you becoming a better man if you are over here have this mentality? I don't want to take it that serious. I don't want to go all out. Like, if you're not going all in, you might as well just fucking throw it in. Might as well cancel this program on you right now because I'm not the fit for you. And I was like, I don't know what you're thinking if you're over here having this mindset of not being all in, or oh, I don't want to weigh my food out and see what the actual ounces I'm eating. I just want to, scan the barcode and make it this way. I'm like, yeah, you can do it that way, but you're going to need to fucking weigh out your food to know exactly how much you're taking in, what you're doing, exactly what it is. And it was funny because at the end of the conversation, he's like, wait a minute. So you're telling me I've been doing it wrong? I'm like, no, it's just another way to get better at what you're doing. So when it comes to cheat meals, number one, how do we be more intentional with them, using them to help us with that weight loss journey? And then number two, how important is it for being all in on that goal? Because I know a lot of people like to have it, on their conditional terms versus understanding the overall goal.
Well, I mean, first of all, it kind of goes back to what I said before. Your idea of fun at this point, not you, but this guy. What is your idea of fun? And is your idea of fun the idea of fun for the person you're trying to become, or is the idea of fun for you that got you in the freaking situation you're in right now, which is being overweight, not being where you want to be? Like, I think you probably can attest to this. Your idea of fun evolves. Like, what I thought was fun 6 years ago is not what I think is fun now. Now, if you force me to go and be out at till 3 o'clock in the morning, a bunch of people are wasted, that is no longer my idea of fun. And Ed Milet says, winning is more fun than fun is fun. And I think the more you
Yeah.
become a winner, you love to freaking win. Like you become obsessed with freaking winning. And I think cheat meals like I think you should be able to enjoy your life. And now my idea, because for me, for the last 2 years, I've been on the Live Hard program. So I'm doing 75 hard. I'm having a break. I'm doing a phase one. So I can't have cheat meals half the year, but the other half I am. It's not that I'm looking forward to on Sunday. It's okay, now I have the room where if I want to go out for a birthday, if I want to do this and that, I can partake in that, and I know I've earned everything I'm eating at that point. And when people say cheat meal, they're implying that, like, I don't even like the word cheat meal, because in reality, like, it's something you earn. If you really, really, really are abiding by your values and your habits and all that stuff, when you go out and you have a burger and fries, at this point you're like, bro, I bust ass 99% of the time. I'm eating this. I'm not going to feel bad about it. The only time you ever have to justify a cheat meal in your mind is going to be when you know damn well you haven't earned it. You know damn well that you're living for the cheat meal, which in my mind, you're still dependent on it. So I tell my clients in reality, we shouldn't even be doing cheat meals until you're no longer dependent on it. And then you can go ahead and start to evolve, like, work that in. But if you're Monday through Saturday hyper focusing on it, you're like a crackhead who literally is just like holding off till the next hit. And I think in that way, you're not really evolving the way you're supposed to, because it's just becoming a physical thing. And I don't think that the evolution of your fitness and discipline and your personal development should ever just be a physical thing. I think your physique should 100% be a side effect of it. And I think you need to take care of your body. But I think if you're really honing in on the core of what it is, you should be honing on a discipline and your mental development. And that means that you shouldn't be dependent on anything. You're aiming to have control. I tell my clients all the time, will one cookie jack you up? No. Is it a problem if I can't put a cookie in front of your face and go leave for an hour and come back and it's still there? Like, you've seen these things with like dogs, right? Where they have like these TikToks, or like with babies where they put it there and they walk away and they see. If you can't do that, is that a problem? Absolutely. Is one beer a problem? No. But I'm sure as you can attest, is it a problem if I can't put a beer in front of your face and you can't not drink it? Hell yeah, it's a problem. So really starting to just disconnect the emotion and dependency on these inanimate objects. And then from
Mm.
there, if you want to go enjoy and be able to, go have a taco, like, cool. But it's the evolution of, A, why are you so dependent on this thing? And can we remove that? Can we remove the dependency? Can we put you back in control? And then B, what is your idea of fun? Why is alcohol or eating bad or these things fun for you? Because if you're really trying to move the needle, why are you rewarding yourself moving the needle with something that's going backwards? And like, let's
Oh,
start to evolve. Like, can you have fun without alcohol? And if no, once again, is that a problem? Is it a problem if you think that taking away alcohol means you're not going to have fun anymore? That sounds like a fucking problem. But I think it's a combination of everything, and it's not a one answer fits all. Like, for me, it's fun watching myself impact other people. It's fun watching my own physique develop. It's fun watching my clients' physique develop. And even you said it earlier, like something I said earlier is like, yo, you move the cart back because it's habits. In reality, do you care about the cart? Probably not. Like, if someone like tossed the cart, would you care? But you care about what moving the cart means to you. You care about what moving the cart does for you. I'm sure it's fun for you now if you see that without saying anything, your wife now puts the cart away, right? That's probably pretty freaking cool. Like, you probably are like, ooh, it's like changing that instant gratification. I don't use food and stuff like that for instant gratification anymore. And I try to tell my clients this should not be your instant gratification. We find instant gratification in other things. For you, it's probably pretty
oh,
freaking cool that your kids are now going to keep seeing you, and now by default, your kids are like, "Oh yeah, my dad puts carts away because my dad's like constantly work." Like, that's that your dad, like, my dad's a superhero. That's probably pretty freaking fun to watch that development and watch evolution. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's just changing that and starting to switch perspectives on what we look for instant gratification and what we look for fun.
you know what? That again, you hit it on the money. And I was asked that the other day. Somebody's like, "What's your favorite meal?" I start laughing. I'm like, "Obviously, you haven't been following me long enough." And they were like, "What?" I was like, "I just eat chicken and rice. Like, chicken and rice, my favorite fucking thing. I can eat it all times. I can force it down. Like, I really don't care. It's simple, it's convenient." And I was like, "That's what you need. Is you need those couple meals, the ground turkey, vegetables, rice, whatever it is for you when you're on the move." And you're just like, "Hey, this is easy to eat. I can still stick to what I need the game plan to be." And it was funny because again, this thing popped up, and I have a buddy who's a bodybuilder, and well, it's a cousin's boyfriend, so he came over, and we're gonna go to the gym, and it was funny because he wanted to go out, and then he's like, "What time you want to be at the gym?" I was like, "Let's be there at 5." And then he just like looked at me. He's like, "Oh, that's way too early." And I'm like, "Yeah, for you." I was like, "I get up at 3, bro. Like, Normally I'm up 3 or 4, 2, 3, 4, getting back to the two, but two, that's the second part, is getting adequate sleep. And for him, I was just like, hey, man, like, you got to reflect on the way you are. And I just was like watching, and that was one of the things is people were like, you're always watching everybody, you're focusing on all the small habits of people. And I'm like, yeah, because it's the things that they don't tell you that you need to learn. And from my walk of life, I learned not to trust people. So now I'm just watching people, and I'm just like, yeah, I see what you're doing. You know what I mean? Whether it works or not, you have the physique or not. It's the habits, it's everything. It's the way you conduct yourself, and that was something I didn't learn growing up, as I was with those people, especially started a business partnership, with guys that glass half full. And that's why my life was always half full. It's you can have your capacity, but again, there was always that second portion. And, it just clicked exactly when you were saying that. So I appreciate you. You've been an amazing guest today. So I'll wrap it up here with the last question I ask everybody. What would you say to that previous version of yourself? You don't know where to start. You just want to align yourself with your definition of success.
Man, that's a good question. I would just say, like, stop bullshitting, bro. Like, stop. You're like, I think like myself for so long, I thought I was getting away with it. I thought I was like, I'd be like, bro, you're not getting away with anything. Like, you're not getting away with it. You're not being a leader. And I think I was living for myself at that point. Everyone who lives for themselves without purpose looks for pleasure. So I think I would just tell myself, like, yo, align yourself with purpose, find purpose, look for purpose. Now that I think everything else would follow.
Boom, you hit it on the money. And that's one of the things I talk about all the time, is if you commit to that higher goal, you figure out the way you need to be living, then everything else is going to fall into place. And a lot of people don't understand that until they hit that hard moment where they're like, man, I really do got to switch things up. So I appreciate you again, Noah. You've been amazing. Where can people find you if they want to keep up with you?
Best way to get in contact with me and follow along is going to be on Instagram at Noah Sharpe always. Also, I'm on YouTube, Noah Sharpe Fitness, but Instagram's the best way. I'm check my inbox all the time, and I'm always putting out free content and trying to provide as much value as possible.
Sweet. Well, we'll definitely send people your way. Thank you again, Noah. It's an honor.
I appreciate you.